You're fresh off of college football week 5, looking straight ahead into college football week 6. I am joined here today with Brendan. Seth could not be here this week, so Brendan is filling in for him. We have quite the slate this weekend, Brendan. We have a couple of games that we kind of narrowed it down to that we wanted to walk through today. We are Statletics. If you don't know who we are, we love breaking down the big games, walking through each one, and trying to make some money off of it. So nothing crazy. We do slip a couple value picks in at the end. You can catch our picks on Action Network or our app that you can find the beta version in the comments. I'll link to it. So if that interests you, make sure to check it out, download it, test it out for us, and give us some feedback on it because we're going to continue to develop it. It's got plenty of NFL and college football data on it. So some exciting stuff coming up for us. But before we do that, Brendan, how are we doing?
Howdy. Let's just say it's a good week for a Tennessee bye week so I can watch all these games and not be fully integrated in the Vols all day.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I will be glued to a TV, my phone, whatever it may be. I will be watching these games. So we got plenty to talk about. With that being said, biggest one of the week, Oklahoma versus Texas. This one is in Dallas. Red River Shootout. We all know what this is. This is basically a preview of the Big 12 championship right now. So after 1 month, the Sooners and the Longhorns are the only remaining undefeated Big 12 teams, and they are also the only ranked schools in their conference. It's a dream start for both programs, and they would love nothing more to run the league one more time before going into the SEC this next year. So obviously the winner of this will emerge as the Big 12's clear front runner, and the playoff implications for this one are more pressing than ever. So big time matchup, playoff implications, Big 12 implications. Neither team is going to be eliminated from either conversation this Saturday, but it becomes more increasingly difficult for the loser, and then the winner obviously separates themselves. So this is a big one, man. On Saturday, it's a huge one for both programs, for both teams, and of course the Big 12 in their last year. Texas is a 5.5 point home favorite. Again, this is kind of a neutral site here, but it is in Dallas, Texas. So 5.5 point spread. The total is around 60.5. 61 on some books. It's probably going to climb even further. Our projections actually like Oklahoma to cover the spread. But before we get into all that, Brendan, who do you like in this game and why?
I need to go to this game at some point.
I do too.
I think that'd be so fun to go to.
It's definitely on the bucket list for sure.
Yeah. Well, all I have to say is that college football is crazy, but Texas has come out and they've been tested a little bit with Alabama, got that win in Tuscaloosa. And Oklahoma hasn't necessarily been tested per se yet. They put up 100 on Iowa State last week, but I think Texas is a pretty complete team. I think they have the better defense than Oklahoma, but it is the Big 12. And at the same time, I think Oklahoma is really efficient with Dylan Gabriel and that they've got a pretty explosive offense. So honestly, in these games, in this rivalry specifically, it might as well be a pick 'em. And because it's so crazy, and because of that, I will take the underdog in this game for Oklahoma to cover the spread. But I think they're going to win.
Okay. So for me, I'm kind of on board with you, man. I actually think I'm on board for Oklahoma to cover the spread as well. I know Texas is a really, really good team, but they kind of lack a bit of efficiency right now. So they have really good success in the ground game and the pass game, but they're struggling to separate themselves from the rest of college football statistically when it comes to efficiency. And I think Oklahoma can get it done against this defense. I know their defense is stout up front, but Oklahoma has the explosiveness and the proven success rate on both facets of the offense in terms of passing and rushing that they can get it done against Texas. So Texas, 50th overall in the nation in overall offensive success rate. Oklahoma, 7th in the nation in overall offensive success rate. So I know that some of those cupcake teams are baked into those numbers, but still, uh, there's a pretty significant margin between Oklahoma and Texas there. Texas, their defense is good. We mentioned this already. Fourth overall in terms of defensive success rate in the nation, but Oklahoma, surprising here, 16th overall in the nation in terms of overall defensive success rate. Brent Venables' defense, his mind has come into play here as we see Oklahoma actually, for the first time in a while, as a respectable defense. So I think Oklahoma can pull this one out. Truth of the matter is, this is one I'm kind of going to follow my projections and buy into, and then trust that Dylan Gabriel can get it done in prime time and out duel Quinn Ewers. I think he can do it, and I actually am going to take Oklahoma to win outright.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, I think it's this is going to be absolutely crazy, but I think the script has shifted a little bit, and good offense trumps good defense now. And I really think that teams with really explosive offense, doesn't matter who they play, as long as they're on that night, they can win. And I really think that it's going to be who has the ball last. But if Oklahoma starts fast, if Oklahoma starts fast, they might stay up the whole game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say, I kind of like where I kind of like the spot that Oklahoma is in right now. Looking at the Vegas numbers, 86% of the bets are on Texas. 89% of the handle is on Texas. So, this could be a potential fade the public ticket for me in buying Oklahoma, especially if the number is going to get steamed up to 7. The way the money is looking right now, I might wait and see if I can get it at 7 and then snipe it there and try and get some good closing line value ahead of this game. So worth a shot, right?
Go Sooners.
All right. Hey, that'll be a fun one. That's a top of the list that we want to watch this Saturday. Second one, Kentucky, surprising win last week against Florida. Go to Georgia, who just had a very, very weird game. I guess that's probably the best way to explain it, against Auburn. So the two-time reigning national champs, they're undefeated so far, barring, nothing crazy, but some close wins nonetheless. They've looked more human than anything these past couple games. Their 2 SEC victories have both required the Bulldogs to come. Honestly, they weren't leading in those games. They had to kind of come back. They were comeback victories. So they were down, and which is kind of crazy for this UGA team, but they're still the heavy favorite, and this is the first ranked matchup of the season for them. But do you think they can get it done against the Wildcats? They're 15-point home favorites. This line is now dropping down to 14.5, and I expect to be 14 here soon. Do you think Kentucky can cover?
The first thing I want to say is that the 5-0 records don't represent the teams, because Kentucky hasn't played anybody, and I know they just beat Florida. I know Florida beat Tennessee and all that, but I don't think Florida's very good. And Georgia has beaten everybody so far, but they've only beat South Carolina by 10 at home, and they had to score last second last week against Auburn to win. And so I said before the year started, I had Georgia not in my college football playoff. And I think that the SEC East is about to get absolutely crazy. And I think that Kentucky's going to cover, because Georgia hasn't been able to separate from anybody. Lower scoring game, Kentucky covers. I think Kentucky's going to win.
No way.
And I don't like Kentucky, you know that, but I'm looking at this and it's just Georgia hasn't done anything. All right, they look bad. They really do. And their defense isn't as good. Carson Beck is a shitty quarterback. And I don't know. I think they're definitely going to cover. I don't know if I'll put anything on them actually winning, but I really think that Kentucky can win this game.
Okay, well, looking at the numbers, we have 88% of the bets are on Kentucky. 86% of the handle is on Kentucky.
Oh, there you
go.
So
people are favoring that big spread, especially after the shenanigans that ensued with last week's game against Auburn. Looking at some of the numbers, there's some holes in this Georgia defense that, were
Mm-hmm.
not there the past year, the past 2 years. So, they're still a really solid team, but, they do have some deficiencies that may be a little new with this 2023 team. Looking at the projections actually had this game 30-24. Kentucky covers. Georgia wins. The Vegas implied score is about 31-17. Georgia, obviously, but the projections actually like Kentucky here. So, interesting note from the projections. I was worried that it wouldn't have Kentucky being able to score, just because Kentucky's biggest weights have been the run game. When you look at their numbers, their passing explosiveness, their passing success rate is really, really low. And their overall offensive success rate is actually really low too. But even though their successful bout against Florida last week, Devin O'Leary went like sub 50% in terms of completion percentage. He did not have an impressive day in the air whatsoever. This game was all on the run, all on the ground. They controlled the clock and they just kind of dominated Florida in the trenches. Will they be able to do that to Georgia? Georgia's biggest strength, the trenches on both sides of the ball. So I don't know if they can do that, man. I mean, the thing about Georgia is they're masking a lot of stuff right now. Offensively, I was surprised by this, but they're 11th overall in the nation in terms of offensive success rate. They are really, really low in explosive plays. They're
Mm-hmm.
100th overall in FBS in terms of overall offensive explosive play rate. So nothing explosive. They're just consistent on the ground and in the air when they need to be. But both defenses are really good. So this is what's going to be interesting. If I were somebody, I would be taking the under, even though it already is pretty low at 48-ish, give or take. But Georgia, 21st overall in the nation in defensive success rate. Kentucky, 38th overall in defensive success rate. They both are top 20 in limiting explosive plays on the defensive side of the ball. And here's where it gets crazy. Kentucky, 12th overall in the nation in passing success rate allowed. Georgia, 3rd overall in the nation in passing success rate allowed. So they're going to have to run to find success. Both teams are. So this is going to be a slow-paced slog between Kentucky and Georgia. And truthfully, that leads me to believe that Kentucky's going to cover just because of the low-scoring, slow pace of this game. I think 15 points is easily doable for the Wildcats.
Yeah, that gives me so much more confidence about how we think the game is going to go. Of them covering a 2-touchdown spread, like 28-20. Georgia is probably more realistic about what's going to happen, in my opinion. But I still think Kentucky can win.
Yeah, I mean, right now it looks like anybody can beat Georgia in the SEC. So we'll see. But I'm worried that they're going to do that thing where they're just only going to get better, and then all of a sudden they're, at peak right before playoff season.
Right before they play Tennessee. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we got another SEC matchup that's pretty exciting. A disappointing LSU Tigers team is favored on the road by 6.5 points, going to the red hot Missouri Tigers. They're undefeated right now, ramping up SEC conference play. They're getting ready to kind of establish themselves in what could be a marquee game for them. The total is sitting around 63.5, give or take a point or two on other books. And I'm just going to be honest. My projections have Mizzou losing by 1 point. So projections are high on Missouri. They think this game is kind of right on the nose with the total, a little bit over. It actually has LSU 33, Missouri 32. So nothing really crazy there. I think that projections alone, obviously like Missouri, but we can dive into the numbers here in a minute. Brendan, who do you like on this side and why?
Yeah, man, this game's going to be one of two things. Either LSU wins by 42 or Missouri keeps it really close and maybe wins at home. This is the only way I see it. And so, I don't know. I like Missouri I like Missouri to cover the spread at home. I like Missouri as a team. I think Drinkowitz has a really good scheme. He showed last year to have a good scheme against Tennessee when they played in the first half. Second half, they got blown out. But I like Drinkowitz. I really do. And I think that Brady Cook is good. And I think that they're going to be able to put up points against the LSU team at home. And Missouri is a terrible place. I went to the Tennessee Missouri game about like 8 years ago, and it's horrible place. But LSU has shown a lot of holes. They were close against Arkansas, and I just think that I'm taking the team with the underdog with the points on this because I just think it's going to be closer. I think Missouri can win this game, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. I think there's a lot of people that do. Looking at some of the Vegas numbers, 79% of the bets are on Missouri, 67% of the handles on Missouri. So more tickets than money, but nonetheless, both sides are on Missouri. When we look into it, both defenses are awful. Just to be frank, none of them are really that good. It's weird because Missouri actually is top 25 in overall defensive success rate. But if you look at some of their other stuff, some of their other ratings, it's really bad. They're horrible at allowing explosive plays. 114th overall in overall explosive plays allowed. LSU 120. And LSU, for the first time in a long time, has a horrible defense as well. The 100th overall in overall defensive success rate. So, across the board, the highest they are in any of these metrics that I have on the board is 83rd in the nation in terms of defensive metrics. So horrible. I think Missouri's going to take advantage of this at home. I think this game is going to be similar to the Ole Miss LSU game of last week, where we see a lot of points. So I'd be leaning towards the over, even though it's totaled pretty high. The projections like the over. The projections like Missouri to cover. I'm going to ride with the projections again, which did, in fact, have a 61% hit rate. So just going to leave that there. This week was pretty fire for the projections. But, speaking of, you can find those on the Twitter account right up here somewhere. It's at Statletics_. So make sure to follow, and you can find both college football and NFL projections. So also make sure to like and subscribe, and please comment your favorite pick of the week. We love scanning the crowd for that information and seeing what you got cooked up on the books for us. So
the other narrative for that game, LSU is in complete desperation mode. They have a loss in the SEC, and they also have their 2-loss team, and they were preseason 5. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and playoff hopes, all that. Big dreamer, Brian Kelly. Woo, yeah, no. And they're in desperation mode here. So I think Missouri. I don't think they're gonna be able to stop Missouri, and I think that they're gonna be able to keep it close. But the other narrative is LSU wins by 42 because they're in desperation mode, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty embarrassed by my take. I had LSU in the playoffs by the end of this year, which I mean they should be. They have the roster to do it. It's mind blowing that they have as pitiful of a defense as they have with Harold Perkins and Mekhi Wingo on the defensive side of the ball. The other stat that I saw when making my notes for this game, LSU is one of the league worst in all of FBS and the rate in which they miss tackles. They have a 17% missed tackle rate. So that's ridiculous. Nearly 1/5 of the time somebody's missing a tackle. So horrible fundamentals, horrible defense. This game is it's a must win for LSU, but I think Missouri is going to be even more hyped up because they have a lot to prove. They're undefeated. They heard all the shit talk from everybody else in terms of the SEC West or East and how they were going to be at the bottom of the barrel again. So LSU covers, hits the over, or Missouri covers and hits the over, riding with the projections. Can't say if I think they win, but they certainly keep it close. Another underrated game I'm looking forward to this week.
One more thing I'll say. I also, preseason, I never announced it anywhere, but I had in the East, the rankings, Tennessee, Georgia, Missouri. I like Missouri to come out third in the East. I still think because
Nice.
Kentucky's got a gauntlet for the rest of the season. There's
They
no
do.
way. There's no way they have that every season. They start hot and then they lose 4 of their last 6 games, and so that's what I like. I like Missouri. Give me the 6.
Okay. Let's ride, baby. Next game, SEC West matchup between the Alabama Crimson Tide going to the 12th man and facing Texas A&M. Alabama is 3.5-point favorites on the road. Now, it's looking like this number is driving down. So if you're watching this, later in the week or after we post this, I would not be surprised if the line goes down to 2.5 or 2. So with that being said, Brendan, would you take Alabama 2.5 on the road, or do you think Texas A&M and Max Johnson gets it done?
I mean, I couldn't have been higher on Alabama minus 17.5 2 years ago when A&M beat them in Kyle Field, and I don't want to be that same guy again. But dude, I don't know. I've been thinking about this for hours today, and I have no idea. But so Alabama can't throw the ball. Okay, Texas A&M's worst part of their defense is their pass defense. So unless Alabama's able to throw the ball, I mean, Alabama's line is worse on either side. I really think that, is it 3.5 right now? Is it 3?
It's 3.5, 3 on some books, and I would not be shocked if it goes down to 2.5.
I mean, I would take A&M 3.5. If it goes lower than that, I don't know. But the Kyle Field's going to be going crazy.
Yeah.
So is it a night game? No, it's 3:30, right?
Yeah, 3:30.
Yeah.
So, I kind of agree with you. Looking at the money, 70% of the tickets are on Bama. 94% of the money is on Bama. So riddle me this: why is the number going down when the money is only going up in favor of Bama? Something weird. That's why we look at the money and the where all the bets are going and which side they're falling to, and then we monitor what the line's doing. So weird behavior here. This is very atypical. So this is kind of ringing an alarm for me. I kind of like Texas A&M to cover and win outright. There's been really no drop off from Connor Wagman to Max Johnson. I think if Texas A&M can bring pressure to Jalen Monroe, spy him, and force him to beat them with his arm, Texas A&M wins. I think if they just sell out and say, "Hey, we are not going to let you run. You are going to have to beat us in the pass game," and even if they let up, a few deep bombs because of it, I'm fine with that. I'm going to force Milroe to beat me with his arm and prove that he can do it. So I kind of like A&M to cover. Now, I will say the projections don't. The projections like Alabama to cover and win. So I'm going against the projections here. I don't love doing that, but I think I like Texas A&M here, man. I'll look at some of the numbers. They have a better overall offensive success rate in most categories, especially in the rushing category. As surprising as that may be, they run the ball a lot better than Alabama. They also have more explosive plays than Alabama in the passing game, so they can certainly win a few there. Defense, Texas A&M might just be better on the defensive side of the ball, especially at home, in favor of the home crowd. I think it's going to put the pressure on Milroe, and I think that we see a Texas A&M win. I'll just say it.
If I'm A&M, so you cannot let Milroe scramble. He will bust 70-yard rushing touchdowns if he scrambles. So if they bring that pressure, like you're saying, but they don't have all the gaps filled, they're going to get torched. Milroe's going to have 200 rushing yards. Well, so if I'm A&M, I bring pressure, but I make sure that it's contained and spied, like you were saying.
But yeah, so that was the key point that I mentioned. I bring the pressure, and then I have a QB spy. And if I give up a big play on the back end because I'm manned up across the board with the receivers, so be it. If Jalen Milroe can do that, fine. But I don't think he can. So I'm just going to force him to try. and then we'll see what happens after that. Straight up. So the Alabama certainly has a good team. Texas A&M also has a good team. As much as I don't like Jimbo and the Aggies, I think they can win at home. I think they can. I think this just really kind of bodes well for them. We'll see. It'll be a fun one.
Lord.
All right. Moving on. Out of the SEC, Notre Dame. Electrifying win against Duke. That was a grinder. I was kind of surprised that, they were able to get it done. I thought Duke was going to be able to get it done, but, Notre Dame was able to pull out at the last drive. Louisville, very, very impressive team. They're finally ranked 25 overall in the AP poll. Notre Dame is favored by 6.5 on the road at Louisville. The total is about 53 points, give or take a couple points, depending on which book you have. So this game my projections actually have Louisville covering, but it thinks the spread is more Notre Dame 4.5. Before we get into any more information, Brendan, who do you think covers and why?
Yeah, Notre Dame is forced every year because they're not in a conference to kind of go through sort of a gauntlet throughout the season. They had that loss to Ohio State in the last play. They have Louisville now, then USC, then Clemson when Clemson's at home, even though I think Notre Dame will handle that game. And I think they know that, and they know that they can't lose again. They can't lose again to make the playoff. They have to win out. And saying that, I do think Notre Dame is going to win the game, but I've been impressed with Louisville and Notre Dame. They split Ohio State. They went on the road to Duke, and now they have to go on the road to Louisville. And I think that Louisville's going to cover. I'm seeing 7. Are you seeing 7 anywhere?
I see 6.5, and then I see 7 on some, depending where you look. I just have 6.5 in my notes right now. Mm-hmm. But certainly there's got to be 7 somewhere else.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I like Louisville. I do 6.5. I like Louisville to cover though.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get it at 7, I would take it too. I think I'm on Louisville to cover here. I still think Notre Dame wins, but I think it's going to be a close one, similar to the Duke game. I think there's going to be a few more points than there was in the Notre Dame Duke game. Yeah. Jake Plummer's been impressive. He is not playing awesome, but certainly well enough to keep him close in a game like this. These teams statistically look very similar across the board. And I know that comes as surprising. Not many people think of them as built the same, but both very successful on the offensive side of the ball. And on the defensive side of the ball, they're also very much similar in that, right? So Louisville, 19th overall in overall defensive success rate. Notre Dame, 13th overall. I will say they do well for every other category except one thing. They allow a lot of explosive passing, or a lot of explosive plays in the passing game. So that's why I see a few more points being scored, because if you look at their offensive ratings and successful passing explosive plays, Louisville 4th in the nation overall, Notre Dame 16th in the nation overall. And on the flip side, on the defensive side, Louisville 90th overall in passing explosive plays allowed. Notre Dame 108th in passing and explosive plays allowed. So they're all very, very strong in a lot of other fields, but that's kind of the one hole that I see. So I see more points, and I see them both being able to take advantage of each other in the same exact manner. So give me Louisville and the points. The public is heavy on Notre Dame. Heavy. So this is another fade the public for me. So I like Louisville, surprising enough.
Go Cards.
All right. Here we go. Last one on our card. Arkansas goes to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is coming off an impressive win and an offensive shootout against LSU last week. Ole Miss is 12-point home favorites against Arkansas. Arkansas has had an up and down season right now. They almost beat LSU at LSU, but then last week they kind of laid a goose egg, man. Looking at the money right now, 68% of the bets are on Arkansas to cover. 78% of the money is on Arkansas to cover that 12. Looks like it's 11.5 on some other books. So Ole Miss certainly in the minority in terms of Vegas handle and Vegas bets. My projections have Arkansas covering, but Ole Miss winning. Brendan, do you think Ole Miss wins by 2 touchdowns, or do you think Arkansas can keep this one competitive?
I want Arkansas to win so bad. It's really weird. It's like I think Arkansas should be better than they are every year, but like they're just not. They're not that guy. You know, there's always holes, but I believe in KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders and their white tight end. Don't know his name, but dude, the problem is that I don't know if they'll be able to stop Ole Miss. That's the problem. But I do think that Arkansas will be able to put up points. Oxford is not a great home field advantage. Everyone just goes, gets drunk, and leaves. So I like Arkansas to cover 12.
Yeah, this one I had a hard time with. I think I'm on Arkansas to cover here too. I originally was on Ole Miss when I was writing up my notes. I thought they were going to be able to blow them out. I felt like Arkansas, the vibes for them were really low. I felt like they would not come out ready to go. But, I think maybe Sam Pittman can get them up and ready to go, especially on the national stage and conference play like this. I think Arkansas can really go out there and prove themselves. I think KJ Jefferson has a lot to prove right now. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. It's just, mind-boggling to me that this team can't find the success to be a contender in the West. But let's look at some of the numbers really quick. Offensive ratings, Arkansas, 43rd overall in total offensive success rate in the nation. Ole Miss is sitting at 39, so very close there. Ole Miss, we already know this. They're one of the most explosive offense in the nation, hands down. Arkansas lacks some of that explosiveness, but overall success, they're definitely a top half team in the nation. Defense is where things get a little fuzzy, and you can kind of see a little bit of a discrepancy. And in fact, it actually bodes well for Arkansas because Ole Miss, leaky defense, and a lot of these numbers are baked into last week's game against LSU, but 102nd overall in total defensive success rate for Ole Miss, where Arkansas is 58th. So very, very intriguing numbers there. But very similar defenses after that in terms of explosiveness. One thing that Ole Miss, really lacks is passing. Like their secondary is just not good. They can actually defend the run fine, relatively well. But if KJ Jefferson can get going in the air, I think that's where they can keep it close and exploit this Ole Miss defense. So if I can get it at 12 still, that's what I've done. I'm going to take Arkansas plus 12. I'm not touching the total because this game can go either which way. Can't say for certain that it's going to be a shootout like the game that Ole Miss was in last week. So let's ride, baby.
Let's do it.
That's it for me, man.
I have one more.
Oh, let's hear it.
I have one more. Lock of the week. Tennessee doesn't lose this week. Lock of the week.
Tennessee
does not lose. Tennessee money line.
Because they're on bye this week.
They're on bye, baby.
If you were searching DraftKings for the Tennessee game right now, I apologize. It was just fucking around. So, guys, we appreciate you being here. Make sure to check out our Twitter where you can see all of our projections. We will be back here next week with both NFL and college football game breakdowns.